something else I wanted to demonstrate. All right, so these are 2x8s, and 2x8s are typically 7¼ inches, and the beam that these are sistering up to are basically the same thing. They're not 2x8s, obviously they're 4x8s maybe, and even though they're older lumber, they were about 7¼ inches. However, where the supports are, they were much smaller. And I say much smaller, I had to cut off like 3/8. I had to rip off 3/8 of an inch from the bottom of this board. Now, what that means is, all right, so for the most part, now it's level. A couple spaces where it's a little bit higher, but and that has to do with a little bit of the bowing. I like, just like most people, like to put the bow up, so with the weight of the floor comes, it pushes down a little bit, rather than having the bow already down where it pushes it down a little bit more. It's the idea. You're supposed to put the bow up whenever you put floor joists in, beams, whatever, because you want the weight to push down on the bow, not push. You don't want the bow to already be down to the bottom. Anyways, that said, same thing over here. I had to take 2 1/8, and this one is much worse shape than this one was. Over here, this one was a little bit of softness here and there. For the most part, it's pretty solid. When I screwed them, most of them went in there. There's 3-inch screws, and they screwed in well. A couple spots in this one, more or less, particularly at this end, because this end is really bad, where it sits on half of this one. And that's why I cut it in half. As you see, there's a lot of probably termite damage. That's pretty bad. But the idea here is that this sister one is going to take that support. Now, it doesn't go all the way through. It gets a little bit better as the beam goes down. So, it's not so great there, but this will kind of help it to give support for this area, because really the only thing this beam is going to be supporting, because the joists over here run this direction, it doesn't really do anything for that room. So the only thing this beam does is for this particular area here where the bathroom and hall were. So, there's the beam. And like I said, I'm going to run the joist. I'm going to run the joist that direction now, because there's a lot less span rather than the way they were, 160 inches thereabouts. So, but what I want to demonstrate, like I told you, is I had to cut it down. The reason I had to cut it down to make it fit on these ends. All right, here as well. And this one I had to shim up a little bit. I put some shims in there, just to shim it up, only to shim it up to get to the level so I could screw it in. But I wanted to show you underneath. See the difference? You see that it's lower? There's like a good, and it's the same way on this side. But see, what happened is, you can see that right there, where it sits on the supports, it's been compressed. And it's had settlement over years. Who knows how old this actual wood is. Same over here, it's been compressed. And as you can see, it's lower here. It's lower than this piece of wood. But the idea here is, we're not concerned about so much how low it is below here. Like I said, it's a good 1/2 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch, whatever. Wait for the focus to come back in here. There we go. But the idea here is we want it to be level with where it was before. And it pretty much is, a little bit high in a couple spots. But that's not going to make a whole lot of difference. And so when I get down to here, the reason I didn't run it all the way to the end is because I want to run another piece that way. And then I'm going to run another piece right next to it, because at this point, there's no beam here. So I want to create a new beam out of 2 2x8s. Want them to be right there and overlap, so I can screw into what's the level left there. It's not a whole lot, but I'll connect these two together. So, but then it'll have a lot of support. That's around 8 inches right there, from there to there, and that's going to be like about 9 inches, I think, or 10 inches, excuse me. It's 10 inches from this one down to the end of here. So, gonna have plenty of support right there to get back over here. And over here, this is pretty bad too. And this right here, this ledger board, is screwed into here, so I'm concerned about this. A little bit of settling going on there. I'm gonna spray foam that just to take the hole out of there, just to fill that hole. But there's a lot of rot under there. But right here, it becomes structurally good. Right here's where I hollowed out as much as I could at this end to get rid of the damage. Of course, there was a ledger strip right here. Now it's just the piece, the two 2x8s that I put in here to span this. I will eventually brick that up. Not my first priority right now, but we'll get back to that to brick that up. And then, well, before that, sorry for the light, we'll be going in and sistering the rest of that one right there for that beam. And of course, I already told you about that beam. So this next